Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm George Connolly with Scratch Golf Tips, and today we're looking at the golf swing of Dustin Johnson, multiple major champion winner, obviously one of the big forces in professional golf over the last 20 years, and certainly has a very interesting golf swing that we can learn a lot from. Let's start off with the stable base that Johnson creates. Johnson does flare out his toes a little bit, which, as I've mentioned earlier, if you can flare out those toes and have them a little bit in front of your heels, that just frees up your hips a little bit and makes it just a little bit easier to have some lower body rotation. Johnson is also a big athletic guy, and big athletic guys need stable stances over the ball. So Johnson has a fairly wide stance, especially with driver, because when you swing and rotate like Dustin Johnson, you need to be connected to the ground very solidly, and having that wider stance really helps, especially with golfers who have high swing speeds. From this front-on view, you can kind of see that Johnson has a little bit of weight transfer right before he takes the club back, and those hands kind of move forward. It reminds me a little bit of how Jordan Spieth starts his putting stroke. He has that little trigger with the forward press. Dustin Johnson kind of utilizes that to start off his driver swing especially, and that's just an interesting way to relieve tension and get yourself starting the swing. So if in your own golf swing you feel like you get a little bit tensed up, try having a little bit more motion, maybe waggling your feet, feeling a little bit of stability, but also loose and tension-free, and having a swing trigger like Johnson has here can actually really help alleviate some of that tension that you may feel standing over the ball. Now let's talk about Johnson's takeaway and move through transition. So one of the most notable things about Johnson's swing is his wrist, the bowed wrist at the top of the golf swing. And what this does is it really shuts down the club face, but because Johnson can clear out that body and let that wrist kind of open itself up, he can also open up the club face, which is why Dustin Johnson doesn't really fight a hook. If you come through the ball with a very closed club face, as some people with the bowed wrist may have, then that closed club face will shut down through impact and you're going to hook the ball. Because Johnson can rotate so efficiently and let those hands free up, he does not struggle with that. So if you have a hook in your golf swing, it's important to note that although Dustin Johnson makes a golf swing with a bowed wrist look easy, I would not recommend having this exaggerated of a bowed wrist in your golf swing. If you can flatten out that wrist angle at the top of your backswing and through transition, it will certainly work wonders. Dustin Johnson is a freak athlete. He practices his golf swing all the time, so that's why he can get away with having a bowed wrist like this, but I would not recommend it to people at home. Another interesting thing in Dustin Johnson's swing is his head kind of moves and points away from the target at the top of that backswing. So his head doesn't really move too much laterally, but as you can see, his eyes and the bottom of the chin start to turn away from that ball in the backswing. And what this is allowing him to do is really free up that upper body, especially the shoulder line, to rotate a great amount through the golf ball. If your head stays down right on the ball, there's only so much rotating that you can do. So in your own golf swing, if you feel like you don't have the shoulder turn that you really prefer to have, you feel a little bit tight up in the upper body, especially with driver in that takeaway, try allowing that neck to move your chin a little bit away from the ball. Now, I'm not saying exaggerate it. Don't fling your head completely in the other direction, but something subtle like Dustin Johnson does here, where that chin just moves a little bit away from the ball, can really free up that upper body. And obviously, the more upper body rotation you have in that backswing, the greater your swing speed and ball distance and carry numbers can be. Johnson has a great shallowing move through transition where that left leg seems to just take on so much of that weight transfer and the hips just kind of follow and come way through the ball and explode through. You can really tell that Johnson has a very efficient weight transfer by the way that his right heel just lifts right off the ground. In this angle, you can really see it well at impact, even a few milliseconds before impact. Notice how high that heel is off the ground. That's because those hips are firing, all that weight is transferring, so that right leg, that trail leg in your golf swing is going to come up a little bit. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this. It's just an indication of great weight transfer. And another super interesting aspect of Dustin Johnson's golf swing that does kind of go against the grain is how far his head moves past the golf ball before impact. Now, I know that a lot of people, especially beginning golfers, always hear the advice, keep your head down. And generally speaking, to someone who's brand new to golf, is this good advice? Sure, it might help them focus a little bit more on the golf ball. But in reality, if when you're playing better golf, you're hitting the ball a little bit further, if you're focused on just keeping your head down, it's really going to restrict your motion a great deal. So I wouldn't get too hung up on the keep your head down advice. Just look at this video of Dustin Johnson hitting a wedge. Even before that club has passed his hip, he's looking way past the ball. Just look at where his chin is lined up. And then by the time he makes contact with the ball, his head is almost looking at where the ball is going to eventually land. Now, again, granted, Dustin Johnson's a very good athlete. He has very good hand-eye coordination. He practices a lot. But if you find yourself a little bit stuck in that transitionary move and over the ball, you're focusing too much on keeping your head down through impact, you're going to start flipping your wrists and using your arms instead of using your upper body to rotate. So letting that head go and letting that chest continue to accelerate through the ball and drive the rest of your golf swing can really yield some excellent results. The golf swing of Dustin Johnson is certainly unorthodox. If you look at the golf swing, it certainly doesn't subscribe to all of the pretty common golf instructional tendencies that we see, but that's just fine. He's a gunslinger. He can hit the ball a mile, very athletic, and clearly he's seen great success in professional golf. So I hope you can learn a few things from breaking down Dustin Johnson's swing, a few things not to do like that bowed wrist, but a few things to absolutely look into, like creating a stable base over the ball with the driver, freeing up your upper body a little bit, having a more stable stance, and letting that head go through impact. If you have any questions or comments on the golf swing of Dustin Johnson, anything I mentioned or failed to mention, please leave them in the comment section down below. As always, thank you all very much for watching. Play well and take care.